We're live. Oops, that was the ghost.
Okay, here we go. Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in to a very special Halloween edition of Boomin' Out Loud. I am your host, RT Bear, and I am a 35-year comic book veteran in this wacky industry of comic books, and mostly an inker, known as an inker, but I write and draw as well, working for both Marvel and DC and many other companies. And so we're going to do a special Halloween Boomin' Out Loud. With me, as always, is the wonderfully talented Taylor Grasso.
Happy Halloween, everyone. I'll be reading your chat, so chime in with your spooky stories and spooky comments.
This thing could get epic. I did some research on the story I'm going to tell. We're both going to tell a story, but I did a little research, and I must admit, I've never really looked into the story I'm going to tell before, but it creeped me the heck out. So, yeah. I was actually kind of thinking I maybe shouldn't tell the story, but...
No, it's a good one, you guys.
You have to.
It's a really good one, and it's true. That's the best part.
It's all true. So, yeah, I don't know what your plans are today for Halloween, but ours here at the household is we have our house set up. So we have we call it the TBird family plot, and we have a bunch of headstones. A lot of them are homemade. We made out of paper mache and things. We've been making them since Amanda, my daughter, was really, really young. And so she loves Halloween as well. So we have that out in the front. We have all the cobwebs and the giant spiders and everything. And this year, we have a smoke machine. Smoke machine. And we have like flash, what are those, strobe lights and stuff like that. So it's going to be very cool. So one of the things, since my birthday is so close to Halloween, I usually get Halloween stuff for my birthday. So we have like one of those little miniature Halloween towns inside the house. And right, Taylor, it's crazy here.
It's
right?
really cool. We should do, if you guys film it tonight, you should film like a little tour of the outside. Maybe we can upload it later.
Especially if we can get that fog machine working. That'll be very cool.
The T-Bears go all out when it comes to Halloween.
Yeah, so it's a big deal here. And so then we're going to, when it starts getting dusk, we'll carve our pumpkins and put them out on display and everything. And I think Amanda, my daughter, and her boyfriend carved theirs last night or the night before. So there's all kinds of pumpkins and stuff around here. They like pumpkin seeds too. You like pumpkin seeds, homemade?
I always say that I'm gonna make them, but then I'm too lazy, and like they just end up getting thrown away. One time my mom made them once, and ever since then I'd be like, I'm gonna make them, and then they just never happen. You guys are the only family I know that carves them on Halloween, which feels very fitting. I've always wanted to do that because it seems like you get the most out of them if you. It's better than just leaving them out for like a week.
Yeah, they get a little rancid. They get a little soft.
Yeah, because if you do it too early, then you have like a rotting pumpkin in front of your house.
Okay. This is the TBird debate. Okay, do you guys? Okay, there's pumpkins. They're like sunflowers seeds. They have a hard shell, but then the seed itself is in the shell. Okay, I shell my nuts before I eat them. I do not eat the shells. When I eat a peanut, I don't put the whole peanut in my mouth with the shell. I break the shell and then eat the nut. When I eat sunflower seeds, I do the same thing. When I eat pumpkin seeds, I shell the seed. My family...
Really? I don't.
I know!
I don't know why, because it is just like... It's no better than any other seed casing.
You're eating wood.
Yeah, it just tastes like wood, and that's what they put, like when they bake it, they put salt on it. It's to cover that wood taste. So I don't know why. I never thought about why I didn't shell it until you brought it up.
Oh, okay. So I mean, I must admit, like the shell casing is delicious. Like they put garlic and butter and salt on it. So I can understand like just putting that in your mouth and just tasting the buttery, salty garlic, right? But It's a shell. It's like eating wood. Like you wouldn't eat a peanut shell. Why would you? Why would you eat a pumpkin shell? So you do the same thing.
Yeah, I never thought about it. I've never actually tried breaking them open for some reason.
They will crack open.
Yeah, like I don't know why. I don't know why I never saw it as an option. Because you're right. Like anything else, like you wouldn't eat like a pistachio.
Well, you would just bite into a banana with the skin on it, right?
Ew.
Or orange.
No, I don't know why pumpkin seeds are the only ones I do that with.
And I don't know. This is where my brain goes. This is Halloween, so I could be gross, but I'm always gross. So, what is that doing to your bowels? Like, those are like wood shards, right? Those are like
Fiber.
I don't know if it classifies as fiber.
It's like wood pulp. You're just well, because that's why you eat it. Because like you said, it has like garlic and stuff on it, and it's like that part tastes good, but not the
But you have to chew and chew and chew to break down the piece of wood.
Yeah.
That's in your mouth.
Spooky digestive system.
Rectal problems.
So think about that, you guys. Maybe you should shell those pumpkin seeds.
Well, the thing is, they eat them by the handful. They just it's like a potato chip. They just can't eat one. Like they're just eating these things. And I'm like, that's got to be hurting yourself, man.
Chips.
Yeah, they're like little wood chips. But anyway, so where's the chat? Do they chime in on this?
Logs to a whole new meaning, says Title, and Sticky Wicket says, you skin your grapes, right? Oh, wait. That's different. That's soft. That's not wood.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be the equivalence of eating a grape with the seed in it and then just chewing the seed.
The spookiest part, Chester says, I eat peanut shells. Ew, Chester.
Chester, hold on. You don't have to eat the shell. Like, it's not a mandate, dude. Like, the peanut is so delicious. Just crack open the nut.
Yeah.
And also, they sell them. We live in the modern age now. They have peanuts that you don't have to shell. Like, that's weird.
It's so much easier.
I don't know, for some reason, now that Chester said it out loud, I'm thinking, maybe there's something to the shell. Maybe I'm missing out on a delicious peanut shell.
Ew, but I hate the texture of the peanut shell. Because it's like, it's got those fibers going throughout it that like hold it together. It's gross.
I don't know how it'd break down.
What's your favorite Halloween candy and your least favorite while we're on this subject of disgusting things?
Okay.
Feel free to chime in, chat.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were reading the chat. But now, since we're on peanut, what is that peanut-shaped candy? That thing's gross.
Oh, the circus peanuts, the like marshmallow.
Yeah.
Those are gross.
What is that? It doesn't even really have a taste, does it?
No, it's just a color. It's just
like
orange.
candy corn. It's like flavored wax. Okay, so those obviously are my least favorite. Oh, and anything by Good and Plenty or having anything to do with licorice.
Ew.
Like what kind of outdated, like, licorice, is that like candy before there was real candy? Like who eats licorice?
I remember, on the subject of the nuts thing, by the way, I just remember this when I was like a little kid trick-or-treating. I remember going around the neighborhood and a guy, like, I'm not even joking, he just put like a handful of sunflower seeds. Like, he had like a bag of sunflower seeds and he was putting them in kids' bags. So there was just loose sunflower seeds all in my bag of candy one year.
That he touched.
Like, I don't know if he ran out of candy and just started doing that, but I just remember him reaching his gross hand in the bag and then just dropping them all in my bag.
All I know is that I'm a really goal-oriented person. I remember when I was a kid, like, there's certain satisfaction when you shell a nut. But there was something that after even like 3 sunflower seeds, I go, is this worth it? Because the nut is so freaking tiny.
Yes, sunflower seeds, they're like a little splinter.
There are people that can put the shell in their mouth and they can shell it in their mouth, and then they spit the shell out. I think if I could eat it like that, it might make sense, because then you get the salty.
That, though.
Yeah, like you get the salty, I guess,
of the
flavor.
Yeah.
And then it gets all gooey with.
That's why it gets all gross, because the shell like gets nasty.
I don't know. We were talking about candy, and then we went back.
All right, your favorite candy.
To nuts. Okay, well, what's your least favorite candy?
My least favorite candy, I don't like. I hate when. I'm trying to think. I like sour things now. I'm not like a big chocolate person anymore.
Sour Patch.
I don't like coconut, so I don't like when they give you like mounds or whatever.
Mounds is just coconut Mounds is just chocolate. No, they have Almond Joy.
Almond Joy's what I'm thinking of.
And then they have Mounds Mounds are just like chocolate and coconut.
Yeah.
And Almond Joy has it's the same thing, but just there's an almond.
Sticky Wicked says gummy rats are the worst. And I don't know. I'm not a big gummy person, but like those are bad too. And they give you like themed gummies because they never have a flavor. Like gummy worms are good, but when they give you like those big gummies, they usually don't really have.
Oh, really? So they're not like just gummy bears or stuff like that. They have just no taste.
That's what it seems like. Like there's like a weird brand that puts them out. Like I remember when I was a kid, like you probably had them too. They'd have those like gummy alligators. They were like big, and you wanted them as a kid because you're like, oh, they're huge. It's a giant gummy, but they always taste like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like sugar gelatin or something.
Ew,
like sugar to gelatin.
Bone marrow. Yeah, those are the worst.
I wonder how they make those. I don't want to know. Because they're also
big mold.
Yeah, they're also semi-transparent.
Yes.
Like, how do you make transparent candy?
Ew.
I don't know. But anyway, like, remember those things? Okay, I'm a boomer, obviously, booming out loud. But they had these things like you could make edible like bugs.
Yeah.
Mattel had this like bug maker.
Creepy crawlers.
But you could eat them, right?
Yeah, because they had the plastic ones, but then they had the original ones. I think were the ones you could eat that were like gummy like that.
Yeah, they were like gummy material.
Didn't they have filling too? Like there was like a fake blood filling or something in them.
I don't know. We were not a rich family, so I did not have the creepy crawly setup. I remember the commercials.
Yes.
And I remember friends having them, but I never. It was a mold, right?
It was metal molds that would burn your hand.
You put it in some kind of heating device.
Yeah, it was
like a toaster.
It was like an Easy Bake Oven. It was like a boy's version of Easy Bake Oven.
But it wasn't a light bulb. Like an Easy Bake Oven is a light bulb.
Hot.
It was like a heating device.
Yeah, it got really hot. I think it was like a legit little oven.
Yeah, and then you poured like some kind of chemical in the mold. I guess that was the candy.
The people in the chat are chiming in with what I was going to say. The great theme song of the Creepy Crawlers.
Oh, that's right. The commercial. Crawlers.
They'd show the kids like grossly.
Oh man! Oh, you know what? Hindsight's always 20/20. We could have found the video for the commercial.
Oh, that's right.
If we would have thought about it, that would have been cool.
I just remember it was always like the kid be eating the creepy crawler, and they'd show an adult or a little girl being like, "Ew," as if it was like they thought it was a real bug. So it's like you can trick people into thinking you're eating bugs.
Cool. But the thing is, too, there had to be some kind of what is it, botulism, or what is that? What is that stuff that you get from eggs, and what is that? Like if it's, what is that called? That poisoning. There has to be some kind of poison you get from that because kids aren't cleaning those molds.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And they're not refrigerating that gel stuff. What is that stuff made of?
I don't know because it's like a liquid gel you're pouring into a mold.
But it's edible. It's not just a gel, but it's edible gel.
And it obviously has flavoring in it. That does seem not good because what kid is going to clean those molds? And they're like metal molds. Salmonella.
Salmonella, that's it. Thank
Argos.
you. Yeah. You get some kind of weird disease. That's why they don't make those anymore.
I
they
don't
can't,
think so.
right?
Well, they started making the plasticine ones where then you made the bugs, but you couldn't eat them. There was plastic because I had that
I'm
one.
sure there's kids that still ate those bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Look, I'm eating a bug.
I used to pull them apart all the time because I had the plastic ones, but like, you know, the plastic they give you to make the bugs is like still that gummy. It was probably the same thing. It was still that gummy texture, so you could like stretch them and stuff, and I would just like pull them apart.
Wait a minute, you had one of those?
Yeah, not the candy one though.
Man, you lucky SOB.
I thought it was the candy one when I got it, and then I remember being like, oh, this is plastic. And it was like a 2-part plastic of different colors, so you could make the bugs all pink
You could
and
mix
orange.
their colors?
Yeah.
Do they have any just like normal bug colors so it looked like a real bug?
No, they just had like green and orange.
Yeah.
It was lame. Durakin says that black licorice is delicious. Ew.
I don't know. I'll go with that. What is it? Cherry? What is the red stuff? What is that supposed to be? Like cherry? Like those damn, my wife likes
Like red
them.
vines?
Yeah, like red vines. What is that?
What's
Is that
the
supposed to be
other one?
strawberry or cherry flavor?
There's red vines and then there's the other one.
The whips, those red, they're like red whips. They're
what are
thin.
they called?
And you hit each other with them when you're a kid.
Yeah, they don't have any. Yeah, they are just like thin little.
Yeah, you can hurt each other.
Yeah.
I got hit in the eye with one of those. And yes, it did hurt.
Did you ever do the like licorice straw as a kid, where you try to drink your drink using a licorice?
Oh, of course.
I
Yeah.
hate Twizzlers.
Twizzlers, yeah.
I hated it because they always started dissolving in the Coke, and they made the Coke taste bad.
And they'd get all weird, like soft.
Mushy.
They'd start breaking down, right?
Yes.
And then you try to eat them and they taste weird.
They're all wet and gross. Oh, pull and peel. That's the kind of thing we were talking about, where it's like it's like a twister, but it's like a bunch of little thin ones together, and you can pull them apart.
Oh, okay.
Those are pretty cool, but I didn't like the way they tasted.
Yeah, my daughter loved fruit roll-ups, but I think they're still like really like people that give those away on Halloween, thinking they're giving kids like some kind of nutritional snack. I don't think
it's fruit flavored.
I don't think those things have any nutritional value in them. It's like sugar gel, just like those creepy crawlies, probably creepy crawlers. We got a group here now. We got our ghouls.
Yeah, we got quite a
forming.
few people.
So should we start telling our spooky stories?
Yeah, yours is a really good one. I don't
know if mine's spooky.
I think it's spook.
I think it's
straight up
creepy.
scary.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Do you want me to start with one that's more mild?
Yeah. Let's ease this crowd.
I have an almost spooky story.
Everybody's tuning out right now.
No, don't.
Almost.
No,
you have to sensationalize it.
Listen.
Listen. Don't go right now.
So I went through a period, which I guess is still going, where I actively like search for paranormal things. And if you guys believe in that stuff, it's totally cool. But I've never had an experience with it really. But I've actively tried to like seek it out all of my life.
But you're still looking.
Yeah, nothing's really happened. Like I've done more things to deal with the paranormal than most people. And I don't know if I just don't have an imagination. I don't have like the capacity to like, I don't know.
Read something out of nothing.
Yeah. Like I've tried everything, like any kind of trope you can think of, like you can see in a movie and you're like, oh no, they shouldn't do that. That's going to bring the ghost. I've tried all those things and nothing's happened.
But you used real science too.
Kind of, yeah. So I want to believe, says the chat. So when I was in college, we had to do a video project, like a mini documentary. So I ended up in a group of a couple girls, and we were like, we're gonna do ghost hunting because that's original, and we were gonna go do it, but we were all skeptics. So we're like, we're all gonna go with an open mind and try to like, ghost hunt and see if like with a group of skeptics if something had happened or if anything's gonna happen or if it's gonna end up making us paranoid going to the setting we were going to. So we went to this abandoned cemetery.
So you're a bunch of Mulders, no Scullies.
Yeah,
no, you're a bunch of Scullies, no Mulders.
Yeah, we were all Scullies. Oh, that would have been a great name for the show if it would have kept going.
The Scullies.
Scullies. So we go to this cemetery, and it's in it's in California by Walnut. It's called Spadra Cemetery, and actually
go there tonight.
They have ghost tours there now. At the time, they didn't. And you can go, and what it is it's a super old cemetery from the 1800s. And there's a lot of, hey Pixel Trader, and there's a lot of Freemasons that were buried there. And it's really small. And to get there, it's kind of blocked off, so you have to do a little bit of hoodlum stuff and go through a gate. But you can't miss it. You basically walk around these railroad tracks, and then there's a spooky looking metal gate that says Spadra on it. So it's called Spadra Cemetery. So we ended up sneaking in there. We have our cameras and stuff, and we did our research. And my favorite thing about this was one of the girls in the group. I won't name her because I haven't seen her in years. I don't know how she'd feel about this. But she did like our main research.
No names.
She did. I'll call her Scully. So
one of the Scully. Scully 1.
Scully 1 is like, she did all the research for it. And she was like, okay, So we're getting ready to go in the cemetery. It's like 2 a.m. because you got to go in the witching hour at 3. And it was blocked off, so we kind of had to like hop the fence and stuff. And also I like jacked up my Doc Martens because they were really old at the time. But anyway, that was the worst part of the story. But anyway, so she tells us like, okay, this is the story of Spadra. Like people go there and they see shadowy figures and in the forest. And she's like, and one of the main things they see is a hunter, like a ghost hunter, and he's dragging a deer. And she talks about how you see this hunter dragging the corpse of a deer. And the other girl in our group goes, well, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. Is the deer is he a prop of that ghost? How come the deer doesn't have a ghost? And she's like, no, it's the whole ghost. It's a hunter dragging a dead deer. And she was like, well, how does that work out? Why is the deer dead in ghost form? And I just remember her going like, you idiot! Like ghosts have clothes. That means there's clothes ghosts. And we got into a whole argument about it.
Oh man.
So we hopped the fence. We spent like probably an hour and a half looking through there in like the pitch black of this cemetery. And it was very spooky. Like if you go there, the ambiance will get to you. But the worst part is that you cross railroad tracks and there's a lot of homeless junkies that live there. And that was the most terrifying thing because we basically...
Those are like the Walking Dead. Those
were.
are your zombies.
We walked back to back the whole time. And I think as we walked in, we saw like one saddened, dreadlocked man hanging out under the fence or under the bridge. And he just kind of looked at us and he didn't do anything because he was probably used to people going there. And we looked for hours.
Either that or he's staring at the hunter with a deer.
Maybe he was a ghost.
Ooh.
Ghost junkie. But like we spent hours there filming, and then there was like this one giant grave, and it has like it's really kind of weird because it's kind of out of place. On the headstone is like a Native American riding a horse with like his head down. I should post a picture of it. I think I still have it. That was like the weirdest one. And like I know that we were sitting there and we kind of had like a sketched out vibe staring at it. And we're like, this one's really out of place. And then right when that happened, a giant orb weaver spider like fell on one of our heads. So I remember cool. One of the girls was like, about it, and it's on camera. And we tried to play it up to the teacher, like we felt something, but we all knew it was the spider.
It was just the spider.
And it was very spooky out there. I highly recommend it. We did some like ritual stuff to try to get ghosts to come out. Nothing happened. And then one of the girls in frustration got really mad and kicked over one of the headstones on the ground. And I always felt really bad about that just because it's kind of a horrible thing to do to a grave. But I just remember she was like, this is stupid, and kicked it over. And it's still knocked over on the ground today because I saw a picture of it on Facebook.
That must have been an old headstone.
It was very old.
Able to knock
it
over.
Was already kind of falling out of the ground. It was like uprooted. But I always felt bad about that part. So hopefully she got cursed. But yeah, Spadra Cemetery. It was one of my favorite places to go ghost hunting. I've been to like every local Southern California supposedly haunted place. I went to the stupid Cobb Estate, which when we went there was kind of cool. But like we went there on Halloween like several years ago, and as I was like walking around, this like little girl showed up. And by little girl, I mean like a 15-year-old. And her friends, and she's like, do you guys know any scary stories? And I was like, I really don't want to entertain this kid right now. So she kind of followed us around for a while we made stuff up about the Cobb Estate. But yeah, any SoCal place I've probably been to. But Art's story is less paranormal and more straight up terrifying.
But wait, like you told me you had like what are those EMFs or what are like you have some kind of like sound. Like, you bring technical stuff with you. Yeah,
we had what they call a ghost box. We had that there, and then we had an EMF detector.
Is it like Ghost Adventures where it goes...
It is. It's exactly like that. And what it does is it gets random, like, radio snippets. It's really weird. It'll get, like, random radio stations, and, like, if you're really scared, you might be like, oh my god, that makes a sentence. But other times, most of the time, it usually just speaks gibberish. And the time we went to the Cobb Estate, we had it with us, and there's a video on Facebook where like when we had it at the Cobb Estate, it just worked like a straight up radio for some reason. And I remember like when we got up there, we're like, we hear something, and it was just an Indian radio station. It was just going a lee 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 a lee 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 with like techno music. So we're like, this is cool.
You guys are jamming while you're looking for ghosts.
Yeah, we tried like I don't know. We also had there's an app that you can get on iPhone called like Ghost Radio, and we tried that. And that one's can be spooky, but mostly because it just puts out gibberish and really spooky voices. And I remember me and Blue one time had that, and we're like, this thing isn't working. And then we turned it off, and I guess she left the app on, and in the middle of the night, it just super loud went, woman, and we jumped, and I being like, turn that freaking thing off. But I think what it does is, like, it connects you to other users possibly using it. I don't know. I haven't found great success with the ghost tools.
But they tried. They're like those people that sit on the side of Loch Ness, like every spare moment of their day, trying to find, some kind of proof that Nessie exists.
Yeah.
That's you, man. You're here doing. You know what? You're doing research, man. You're doing paranormal research.
I've tried everything, and like the thing is, I've gone to like, because I've had friends who are like, I can see ghosts, like I have special abilities, and then I'll be like, okay, I'll come to your house, and I like will have to go to film them, and then they'll be like, the energy isn't good this day, nothing's really happening, and then nothing will happen.
And you're like, that's convenient.
Every single time. Maybe I just like repel them or something, but I've literally tried everything.
Well, you need a believer. You need the Scullys, but you need one believer.
Well, like
you need a Mulder.
In my group now, like there's several believers, and we've done a lot of stuff together, but nothing really ever comes of it.
Because
like,
those are the guys that are going to paint the other side of the picture. Because you'll go, oh, it's just the EMF thing picking up radio signals, and they're like, no, there was that one sound. It sounded like a little girl's voice saying, I need your help.
Well, the last time
and then you're like, yeah, I need your help. What does that mean?
The last time I went with believers, we were walking around this property in Hemet, which was already spooky, that was supposedly haunted. And this was like last year. And we were walking, and we heard a growl. And I'm pretty sure it was like an animal, but I remember I was like, I heard a growl, and all of them left me, and I was alone. I was the only one that stayed, and like it got scary once they left, because I was like, I hope I don't get killed by coyotes out here. But I didn't encounter any ghosts.
I like that you weren't afraid of the ghost. You were afraid of a coyote.
Because they're like, we hear voices, and I was like, I'm gonna keep going then, and they were like, no, we have to go. We have to heed their warning, and then I stayed. And nothing really happened.
Nothing happened.
But it was fun. It was really pretty out there.
I remember doing stuff like that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Just like, you hang out with kids, like in the woods or whatever, and you tell your stories and you freak each other out, and then you start seeing things because you've basically painted an image, and then you have an overactive imagination, so any little thing becomes a big thing.
Yeah, because, like, your mind plays upon it.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that into my 20s, and maybe my imagination's fading or something, because nothing's happened. If you guys know of a really, like, spooky place I can go to, I'll do it. Like, I'm open to anything.
There's that one up in, I wanted to take Amanda, is it Big Bear or whatever? There's a manor where there were these murders, and there's supposedly hauntings.
The ice house?
Is it?
All I know is that
you can spend the night there. It's like an inn.
Yeah, there was like rituals or something.
Some kind of Hollywood killing or something. And then there's one that we took Amanda to last year on her birthday in San Diego, and it's the something house, the Whaley House.
I always wanted to go to that.
The Whaley House, yeah.
How was that?
It was pretty good. Yeah, I mean that whole area is all like Old Town, so that whole area is kind of in its pristine state, sort of. So there's a lot of older buildings there and things, so it kind of helps paint the image of what it was like in those days.
I went to an underground town that was supposedly haunted when I was in England, and I got really creeped out because I heard a woman got stabbed there, and I was there alone.
And then they have the Queen Mary haunted tours.
Oh, I stayed at the Queen Mary before.
Did you do it for the haunted tour?
No, I just stayed with my family, and like I wandered around and tried to find stuff, and nothing really happened. It's a really cool place, though.
Because they have these tours and they do it at night. That place is creepy anyway.
It is. It's a spooky looking place. They go to the under levels, right?
Yeah, they take you to the boiler, and then there's some room where supposedly the ghost is, and you can't see that during the regular tour. Where the murder took place or whatever it is. I forget what it is.
Where's that place you visited when you were a kid and I've been there? It's, oh gosh, what's it called? It's the place with the the road is super twisty. It's not that far away from here.
San Francisco?
No. It's still not that far. It's still like within quick driving distance, where the house has been demolished, but you would supposedly go with the house.
It's Turnbull Canyon.
Yeah, Turnbull Canyon. That's a big one.
Yeah, in Whittier. Yeah. Supposedly there was a magician that lived in this house. There's a bunch of houses up on the hill.
I heard he was a devil worshiper.
Devil worshiper, magician, whatever. And so the thing is, kids would go up there on the weekends, and they would smoke and drink and just party, and then they would heckle that guy or that house. And so it's not like a housing tract. It's like the house is kind of alone on its own in the mountains.
Yeah.
And so it overlooks like a bluff. So there's kind of a hairpin curve right where the house sets. So the highway goes around it, and the elevation, you're pretty high up. And so we would go there as kids, and we would heckle this guy. And so if you heckle him long enough, like we had like fire extinguishers that we could shoot up at the house, and we were just punks. We were idiots. I don't blame this guy. And so then we would throw rocks up at the house and just scream and honk our horn and things like that. So I don't know if this guy did it to like elevate the story, or if he did it to try to get rid of kids, but it didn't work to get rid of kids.
They kept coming back.
Yeah, so what he started doing is like building water cannons, and like he would flash these huge like lights at you, and then and
rocks.
Yeah, there would be things that would fly off of the property at your car. So our car had been pummeled with rocks one time. And the lights are they're at the house. They were at the house first, but then they went up at that blind curve. So as you're coming around the curve, those lights will hit you, so it blinds you. So I don't know if he wanted to kill people or not.
Supposedly it continued after his death.
Yeah, so the thing is, I remember we went around that curve and we didn't know that those lights were there, and then they blinded my friend who was driving, and so he almost went off the road and he curved around. So I don't know. Yeah, there's all these stories that were like there was a dead devil worshiper, or like that. He died, right? And
he died, and the stuff continued after.
Yeah.
But there is one part that's true. That trail that's like right by the house, you know where the big like water tower and stuff is?
Yeah.
There were like multiple gang murders there, and they've found bodies in there since. So like there is a great danger of going there at night, because some people would go mess with that guy, and then they'd see like gang initiations and stuff. So there's that, and also that road is like kind of scary to drive on anyway.
It's a mountain road, so it's a single lane highway or just road.
But they've since demolished the house. And
it's not there anymore?
Yeah, and supposedly the stuff still happens even though the house is gone. But they have it blocked off by like a big. Well, they still have the fence, the old fence that they had, but nothing's there. And like we climbed over it, and like the hill is like really steep, so it's kind of hard to get to. But there's not a lot over there. The foundation's still there, but that's about it.
You could barely see the house from the road.
Yeah.
There's a big like concrete wall that was built, and then there's a gate, and the gate kind of leads up to the house. I mean, it really looks like a haunted house.
Yeah, it looks like a typical spooky haunted house.
Like a spooky haunted house. And in California, those things don't really, I guess they tore it down, so it doesn't exist anymore anyway. But those kind of buildings don't really exist.
Not here.
Yeah, when you're like back east, where it's older, you see those houses they're more commonplace. But here, like it stood out like a sore thumb. So it was pretty scary. But I think the main reason we went up there is just to hang out with girls and drink beer.
Oh, girls love spooky places.
Spooky, but there was like some kind of like, I thought it was like a magician, and maybe it was like that worshiped the devil. Yeah, so he had some kind of like...
I think it evolved over the years, so by the time I heard it, it was like he was a devil worshiper.
Okay, so all of that is like speculation, but is this the image here? This one here? All right, so I don't know if you guys are going to know who this is. But this is a psycho named Vernon Butts, and I hung out with him briefly in the late 70s, and the story, I guess I should back up a little bit. I forgot all about this, and I didn't even remember really that this guy, like anything, the particulars about this guy. So I don't know if in the chat knows who this guy is yet, but Taylor and I, when we work, we listen to this. What is it? My Favorite Murder.
Oh yeah, my favorite podcast is My Favorite Murder, and we would play it once in a while.
Yeah. So these two girls talk about like these murders, and so they were talking about the Freeway Strangler, right?
Yeah, the Freeway Stranglers.
Yeah, but it was mostly that Bonin guy. What's his name?
The main guy, the main Freeway Strangler, something Bonin. Yeah, they were in the middle of talking about that.
Yeah, so but they didn't really talk about this guy. They just brought him up with his accomplices, but they didn't really tell this guy's story, Vernon Butt's story. So after we listened to that, or while they were talking about it, I remembered that I knew this guy, Vernon Butts. And so then I'm telling Taylor about this guy. And then Taylor, as we're talking about it, they're starting to talk about him as well, right? So they said he was a part-time magician, that he knew this Bonin guy, and that there was these other details, and they said the dates and everything, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think that's the same guy. So I just started talking to Taylor about it, and one thing led to another, and then I think you did some research, right? You just Googled or Wikipedia.
I don't think you knew the extent of what he did. I think you knew that he was involved with those guys or something at the time. But
they just kept saying as an accomplice.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
Because he had multiple accomplices, the main Freeway Strangler. I think he had two?
Two other ones, maybe, other than
There was Vernon and there was someone else, at least. But I remember you're like, I knew that guy. But then
I knew that guy. And so then I was like, holy crap. So last night I started doing some research just to kind of validate, like, it's the same guy. And there was a lot of connections coming up. Because, well, let me tell my story first.
Yeah, how did you meet him?
Okay, so since Star Wars came out, so I've always been a sci-fi, comic book geeky kind of guy. I played sports and played music and stuff too, but there was that side of my personality. And so this was probably, I don't know, sophomore, junior year in high school. And so Star Wars, or maybe it was pre-Star Wars. When did Star Wars come out? 77?
I think so.
So yeah, maybe Star Wars had already come out. But anyways, I started getting very interested in film and making films. And so I had a friend, we all have these friends that are either like your one comic book collecting friend, or your football friend, or your, in this case, film making friend. Like he was really interested in making films.
The one you bonded, having that one thing in common with.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't have friends that have multi-interests like ours, but we have one friend that has that one particular interest. And he was that guy. His name was Phil Solis. So, Phil, if you're listening, please, man, you could definitely add to this story. My gosh. So anyway, so we would make these little Super 8 films and stuff like that, Phil and I. And so he was the main guy. So he always had money and he always had resources that I didn't have. So I was always assisting him on these films and stuff. And so he said, hey, Art, there's a friend of mine and he makes these great films and he needs some help, like grips and stuff like that. He actually has equipment and like he makes these productions. And I'm like, oh, okay. So this is the thing is I wanted to find out where Vernon lived. Because there's a lot of communities. I grew up in Norwalk, and so there's Whittier, Bellflower, Downey, Cerritos, and then there's other communities. And I know that he lives somewhere close, but it wasn't any of those that I mentioned. It's somewhere around the Whittier area. It's kind of an upscale neighborhood, but I can't remember where it was exactly. So this is also what I don't remember, how we got there. I'm thinking that Phil, because I think we had our permits, but we didn't drive and we didn't have access to a car. So I think Phil's mom was always the person that, helped Phil out a lot. So I think she drove us to this house, right? So
man.
Yeah, so we go to this house. And so I just remember coming up the drive and there was a Datsun, like a B210 hatchback, those things like had big glass back like windshields. And so I just remember looking in there, and there were like these jugs filled with red stuff. It looked like blood, but there were jugs of it. The whole back end was filled with this stuff. So already I'm like, this is weird. So then we knock on the door.
Sorry to interrupt. Could this be in Westminster?
It could be, because that's close enough. Yeah.
Because it says that he would go around Santa Monica Boulevard. I think he was in Westminster and a lot of his.
Oh, all these murders I found out last night, they took place all around Southern California. So it wasn't just a region, but I was trying to figure out where he lived. This was his family house. This wasn't his apartment. This was where his parents lived. I met his mom. She offered to make us lunch. Like, she was a sweetheart. Like, it was weird, guys. Anyways, I'm trying not to let any of the details go. So we knocked on the door. Mom answered the door. She let us in. So we're there. And so she's like, can I make you anything, whatever? She's a good host. She's a great mom. You know, stereotypical, like just really giving mom. And so then he comes, hey guys, whatever. And so then we just went out that same door.
He was a little older than you, right?
He was a lot older. Yeah, he was a lot older than us. So we're like, I mean, I don't know if he was still in high school. I think he was out of high school. So he might have been like, you know, like 19, 20, 21, maybe around there. And so he said, hey guys, come around the back. So we went around the back. And so it was a detached garage, and he had a pool. And I just remember, because we were always so poor growing up in Norwalk, that I was like, oh my gosh, these people are rich because they had a pool. They had a built-in pool, right? And the house was like somewhat upscale from, you know, the neighborhood I lived in. So we were like, okay. So I'm just kind of enamored. Like, this is a great day. Other than that blood stuff that I saw, this is okay. And so then I just remember talking, and he was talking about this Jaws movie he was making. He was making this movie like it was just going to be his Jaws. And I just remember that. So then I was like, oh, okay, that's why you have all the blood, because there's a lot of blood in the Jaws movie. And then he was talking about how he used the pool as like for the underwater shots and stuff like that. And then he had like these sharks that he was showing us, like these rubber sharks or these homemade sharks or whatever the heck they were. So I'm like, okay, so this seems legit. And he showed us his camera and all the lighting and rigs and kind of what we would be doing to assist him. And then I remember this. This is why this always stuck out to me, is there was a, what do you call those? It's just like where you bob for apples. It's just a container you fill with water.
Yeah, like a big bucket?
Yeah, it was like a bucket, but it was pretty big, not a small bucket. Kind of like that you'd fill with ice and put beverages in, like if you went on a picnic
like
or something.
Like a big wood kind of thing.
Yeah, but it was plastic, like one of those tough plastic containers.
A barrel? I'm thinking more like a tub.
Yeah, it was like a tub, just a big tub, but it was fairly big, and it had a towel over it, like a beach towel.
Already weird.
Yeah, and so I just remember him going up to me and just saying, hey man, why don't you go up to that and just, you know, check it out, look at what's in there. And so already, I'm not a stupid kid, I'm naive, but I'm not dumb. So I'm like, this is a setup. Like, he wants to get some kind of rise out of me. This is a weird thing.
Pretty astute for a kid, by the way.
Yeah, I think my hackles, as my wife said, were already up. Like, there was something going on here. So anyway, so, you know, he keeps going, go check it out. And then Phil's like, yeah, Art, check it out. So Phil is kind of already on board with this guy. And Phil had already met this guy prior. So they had hung out. This is the first time I met this guy. So then I'm going, okay, I want to be one of the guys. This is some kind of weird initiation. So I go over, and then I pulled the towel away. And so there was a head, a severed head, that was floating in a bucket of blood. So then he laughed.
A fake severed head.
Yeah, it was a fake. Yeah. Well, no. It was obviously, it was really fake, guys. It looked like a fake head.
Still.
Yeah.
Equally, I would say still incredibly creepy.
So I just remember, I am sure you guys have all been in like uncomfortable situations where somebody's laughing at something inappropriately or too long. like it wasn't that funny, right? But to them, it's the funniest thing.
Yeah.
And so he's laughing, and then Phil's kind of on board too. So it's like okay, so maybe they just want to see, they want to initiate me to make sure I'm not squeamish. So when I can do these things that we need to do to make this film, right?
He's
So
testing you.
yeah, so I'm still thinking like this is above board. It's weird, but it's above board, right? So he's also, telling us all these different stories of how he does these things, but nothing's kind of, it's all weirdly bloody and violent. It's not like storytelling or anything like that. It's all about like reenacting these attacks, right? These shark attacks. So then for some reason we went back into the house, and so we went into his room, okay, his bedroom. This is a serial killer. I think he was convicted, or he went on trial for 6 murders, and we'll get into what he did later, because I looked this up last night. I never looked up the full version of what he and this Bonin did. But anyway,
And when you hear the time frame, you're gonna lose it.
Oh, I lost it last night. That's why I didn't want to tell the story, or I was thinking I wasn't going to tell the story. So anyways, we went into his bedroom, and there's all kinds of magic stuff all over the room. So I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, oh, over at Cerritos Mall or around here, I do magic displays to sell magic on the weekends. And I did remember, this is how old I am, at this toy store in the mall, in Cerritos Mall, they had a counter, one of those glass counter things, and they had magic tricks in there. And so what he would, and I remember this as a kid. I remember going there on Sunday, and this guy fit this description, would do magic. He wore a cape, like a black cape. It was like crazy, like stereotypical, like stupid, like, what do they call that? Close-up magic stuff?
Yeah.
So he was trying to sell those magic kits. So he would display how they worked. And so I do remember that. So that was kind of off-putting. There was all kinds of like weird, kind of like magic kind of gets into the macabre, right? Where they do guillotine stuff. They do like swords, and there's like peril type of stuff.
And also manipulating people, because you're kind of tricking people with this stuff. Someone says sleight of hand. Yeah.
But up close magic sleight of hand. Yeah. So I'm kind of still thinking, all right, this is above board. And there's a coffin, a full-size coffin leaning against the wall. I'm not kidding. It wasn't a prop coffin. It was a real coffin. And so then I was like, what's that for? And then he said, I sleep in it. So then I was like, all right, I'm done here. I was thoroughly freaked out with everything that was happening there. I was completely freaked out. And so I did whatever we were going to do there. We did it. I believe Philip's mom came back to pick us up, and we left. And so I remember Phil at school the next day saying, so what did you think? Are we going to, I'm going to help him, and, are you going to help out too? And I was like,
he probably thought he was cool.
He did think he was cool. Yeah, Phil thought he was cool.
Because I can see how like a little boy would think he was cool, but you were more street smart. Like, this is kind of weird for this dude to be.
Yeah, and gosh, I'm thinking I didn't want to spoil the reveal, but we're getting close to the reveal, and this is what freaked me out, because let me go into the article.
Yeah, because I have something pulled up too.
So here's some of the this is like, I guess this is the Bonner. It gets into William Bonin first. And so then as I was reading, he's ex-military, that Bonin. That doesn't mean anything, but I guess he had done some stuff in the military too.
I think he was discharged.
Yeah. So then
there we go.
Bonin was anxious for a fresh start. You want to read this, and then I'll
scroll down a little bit. Let's see. A 22-year-old factory worker and part-time magician named Vernon Butts was in attendance at one of these parties, one of the parties he went to. Over time, Butts became enamored with Bonin and was excited by sadistic homosexual activities. Sharing the same ideology, the ne'er-do-well Butts leapt at the chance of becoming Bonin's first accomplice. So he was his first accomplice.
Yeah.
Together, they would prowl the highways of Southern California in Bonin's olive drab van looking for teens to ravage. The first one happened in 1979.
79.
If you saw Star Wars in 77, it was probably 77 or 78.
79 is the year I graduated. So this fits in the total, because it was probably 77. It was probably 77, 78 that I met him, somewhere in there. And I was around this old. I was probably 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there.
Because they killed a 14-year-old. I'm not going to tell you all the grisly details. Then a 17-year-old in Westminster in the Cajon Pass. I know they said some of them were in Long Beach.
They were all over.
Yeah, they were all over Southern California, all around basically the LA area at the time. And see, dump bodies in Malibu. Let's see, 3 weeks later, 15-year-old in Hollywood. So he was his first one, and he kind of went with him. Between 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. is when they would go pick up these, like, young boys. Let's see. Butts would go on to assist Bonin in at least 5 more murders. So, despite the fact of similarities in motive, Brandy, the 3 killings, officials in Orange as well as Los Angeles County refused to acknowledge the possibility.
That's my favorite part. My gosh, they're not serial killers. They're doing the same thing. They're using the same MOs practically.
Yeah, they didn't make the connection. It was the same person. Which, by the way, I was reading about it. Like, the definition of a serial killer is someone who's killed more than 3 times. So they had already, by that point, killed like 7 people, and they didn't acknowledge the possibility of a serial killer being in the
and
operation.
they're all left on the side of the freeway. So the murders weren't on the freeway. The murders, they were just dumped. The bodies were dumped on the freeway.
Yeah, so they dumped them. This is near Ventura Freeway. David Murillo, who's 17. Let's see. They kind of did the same thing. God, they bashed them with a tire iron. An 18-year-old. Let's see. His body was found September 19th. So this was all within the year of 1979.
Yeah.
In late November 1975, a corpse of an unidentified youth was found in Kern County. Let's see. The body was discovered on December 2nd. There's another 7. So there was like. Gosh.
So there's like northern and southern California. Like this is pretty far north, and that's pretty far south.
And then they found one in San Bernardino County. A Long Beach teen, John Kilpatrick, was found in Rialto.
So it was in 19. So they were still going into 80.
Yeah. So 1980. Let's see. Then they got a new accomplice in 1980. Gregory Matthew Miley. While driving to Downey, they met a 15-year-old hitchhiker. Yeah, this was like the creepiest part is that like Art, you were like the age of their victims, and it happened like almost a year after you had been hanging out with him. He started doing this stuff.
Yeah, so I think it was probably most likely it was my junior year. So my junior year, I was, I don't know, 15, 16, somewhere, maybe 17. How old are you when you're a junior?
Probably like 16 or 17, right?
Yeah, I could have been 16, 17. So I was definitely the age of the victims, and also the timeline is similar.
And they got them around Long Beach and around the same area.
Well, all these areas are all around Southern California. These are where they were dumping the bodies too, Taylor. This isn't where they were finding.
Yeah.
This is where they were finding the kids. So they were finding them all over the place. There was one they found over by Disneyland, and
God.
he was going to Disney. So they killed him.
Oh, there we go.
And then they
12.
used his money. They used his money to buy lunch with.
Oh God.
$6, his Disneyland entrance fee to purchase themselves lunch.
They tricked him into a van by promising to take him to Disneyland. Aww.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So there's 18-year-olds. So they're all, I don't think any of them exceeded 18. And
they were from 14 to 18, I think.
And they said that they were like, they suspect there might be like 21 of them.
Yeah, they don't think they got that Bonin on everything.
No, because these were the ones that they could connect him to. But they're all in Southern California.
Yeah, they were like the freeway killer, they called him. And also, the thing is, I remember talking to a friend of mine at school that also was a film guy, or somehow I was talking to him. I don't know if he was a film guy, but he told me that he helped Vernon make one of these films too.
Ugh.
And so I remember, is this focused on the screen or are we off? There we go. He told me, he said, because he was older and Vernon wanted to use his dad's car and knew that he had access to, this guy had access to his dad's car. Mm-hmm. So Vernon had him come in and they were filming their scene for whatever this movie was or whatever. And he told me, he remembered this Vernon telling him, he was saying like, all right, we did everything, this is great, but I need you to crash this car. He was telling this guy, I need you to crash your dad's car and we'll film it. It'll make the scene better. And so he just kept trying to convince this guy. I don't even remember this guy, if he was really a friend. Somehow we were just talking about this Vernon guy that makes these films.
You guys bonded over knowing a mutual weirdo.
A weirdo, yeah. And so then he said, yeah, he wanted me to crash my dad's car. And I said, absolutely not. And then that was the last I ever saw of him. So he was kind of in this group. Like, people knew this guy and knew what he did. And I remember too, this is kind of, I don't know how this relates, because I tried to find out where Vernon lived and anything more about his backstory. But I do remember going back to his house. I didn't talk to Vernon. I didn't see Vernon. But what Vernon did is, now they do these mazes all in these amusement parks like Knott's Berry Farm and stuff like that. And he had built this wooden structure in his front yard and had plastic hefty bags around it. And so it was some kind of horror maze. It was like a haunted house, like horror maze that he built in. It was just a narrow like hallway.
Yeah.
That he built out of wood and then put this plastic over. I don't remember going in there. I just kind of remember driving by and seeing it.
Was it around Halloween or just like?
Yeah, it was Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't just there. It was definitely for Halloween. So it must have been around that same time. But that's the only thing I really remember. I remember him trying to get me to make his film, or get me to help him make his film. I remember Phil was enamored with him. I remember his mom was a sweetheart. I remember he was a little creepy, but in a charismatic way.
Yeah.
And I do remember
eccentric, like in a way that a kid would be intrigued by.
Yeah, and he was doing everything I wanted to do, but he was just a little bit more focused on the horror aspects than just filmmaking.
But a lot of like young boys are into that too, so you can see how he would probably get younger friends, because they'd be like, this guy is doing stuff a lot of people want to do, like something cool, like special effects, and then Louis kind of spooky. Like, it seems like the perfect kind of persona to attract like young
because
people.
They said in another article, no, it was in that show, they said what Vernon would do is he would recruit people and bring them to Boomin. Remember, that's what they said, right? So he would assist in the murders, and I think he did kill people too, but he would mostly
lure them and bring them
to that Boomin. So I don't know how he would do that, if he did it through like-minded stuff, like, hey, I make films and I do this stuff. I'm just trying to draw connections here, because I did try to find anything like that, and they never said really how they recruited the kids.
Yeah, it sounds like it was mostly at bus stops and stuff, but who knows? I mean, he had a job where he interacted with kids too, so
yeah, at the doing magic and stuff like that. So I don't really know. Like I said, I'm kind of speculating here. But then there was this article that kind of gets into a little bit more about like Vernon's little bit backstory and then what eventually happened to him. You want to read this, Taylor?
Yeah, let's see. Butts 23, the state's key witness against Von Bon. Okay, so he was also a key witness. Accused of mastermind, torturing, sex slaying, found hanging from a towel rack. So he ended up dying in prison. Where does it say? I've been complaining that nobody should have contact with Butts, especially Bonin. He said, I think his attorney. Other inmates were threatening him, especially in jail from Los Angeles.
I think it's another cop. It's a cop that was saying
there we
this.
go. Scroll down a little bit. Butts confessed to taking part in some of the killings and had been arraigned on 6 counts of murder. His confession, recorded in July 1980, shortly after his arrest, was unsealed and released last Thursday. The confession tied Bonin, a truck driver, to 21 murders. He said Bonin had kind of a hypnotic way which coerced him, I'm sure, into assisting in the killings. Butt said he would drive Bonin's van while Bonin tortured his victims and then killed them in the back of the vehicle. Bonin was on parole when many of the youths were slain. He was called the most arch-evil person who ever existed and the most dangerous then mass murderer. Charles Manson, let's see. Stovitz helped persecute. Bonin pleaded innocent. Butts had not entered a plea, and officials said his confession was not admissible. Butts said most of the victims were strangled with their own t-shirts, but some were attacked in a variety. Butcher box, steak knives, etc. Killed ice pick. So Bonin got charged with only 14. That's kind of weird because he was accused of 21 murders and
27, yeah.
27? Oh my gosh. So it was in Orange, San Bernardino, Riverside, and Kern County. The young men have also been charged with committing individual murders. So he was charged with 6 of them.
Yeah, Butts was, yeah.
So Butts only got charged with 6, but they think there was 21, which who
27.
knows?
There were 27, yeah, but they said who knows. And then I did read that Bonin eventually did get the death penalty. He appealed, so when they appeal, they can't put him away. It has to be another hearing and everything. But they eventually did put him away, and I guess the good part of the story is that he was, I think they said, the only one in Southern California history that had lethal injection.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So they did him away with lethal injection, and then Butts was killed. They said it was suicide, but this one cop in here says he thinks it was. They think it was suicide, that Butts killed himself, but this cop thinks because Bonin had access, it made it sound like Bonin had access to Butts and that other inmates had access to him as well, that it may have been a staged suicide, that it might have been murder. That's what this sheriff says.
And kind of poetically, he died in a similar way to all those victims.
That's why they think that maybe
someone
killed him.
Because I guess everybody in jail, rightfully so, were kind of out to get him.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys. There he is. Oh, there he is. Yeah, so, yeah, I think there's too many connecting dots. I think I had a run-in with this guy.
Sticky Wicked says, pretty damn good story art. And Zach says, damn, Art, you really dodged a bullet or a tire iron there.
Well, you know what? I did, but I didn't realize how much of a bullet I did dodge, because remember when we were talking, when we lived.
Yeah.
It was like I had just remembered that story, right?
I don't think you knew the extent of what he did. I think you just thought he like drove around or hung out with that guy. Like I don't think you
like he was an accomplice,
yeah.
But
he was hands-on.
But when we were listening to that, My Favorite Murder, that podcast, I was like, it was all flooding back to me, like, and it was earlier this year, right?
Because I think at that time you were like, oh, well, he went to jail because he covered for that guy or something. And then they started talking and they're like, and then he killed him. And you're like, oh shit, he actually took part.
And then even that, I think in My Favorite Murder, they just kind of said he accomplished. Like he would lure the boys to Bonin.
They did get into it. I don't remember if it was that episode or later, because they did end up revisiting the Freeway Strangler thing.
And talking about Vernon?
And apparently, I forgot about this. Apparently he was into D&D, and he used to play D&D with some of like the neighborhood boys too. And I think that's how he met a lot of them, is that he would have them come play D&D, and then he'd be like, we're going to play D&D in the sewers, and bring them down there.
Oh, man. The MO, the timing, and like I said, I didn't really put... It's weird when you see historically, you see times, like that article that I just showed, where they said, you know, like 70, whatever it was, 78, 79, 80, the kids were 14 to 19, and all that stuff. Like, that's how old I would have been at the time, and that's how old I would have been at that time. Like, in those years, that's the age I would have been. So... holy crap, man. I was the targeted audience.
And he did, like, obviously not in that way, but he did kind of like test out your character to see how you would react to something creepy, like a severed head thing. So you had a weird experience, or even as like a kid, you picked up like there's something not right about this guy. Obviously, you didn't know the extent, but even then, he had a weird enough vibe where you were like, this isn't
kosher.
Because I think there's a lot of kids that would have been like, who would have thought he was cool, but you picked up on that he had a really sketchy vibe.
Yeah, and I know he didn't get Phil because I stayed friends with Phil afterwards. And Phil did pursue a career in film. He went to Long Beach State and studied film because I stayed friends with him and I helped him in his school projects and stuff like that. And when he would make his films, his student films. But holy crap, man. I never really told this story. My wife didn't even know the full extent till last night. So, spooky Boomin stories.
Yeah, this is like the spookiest of stories because you never know. Like, it's so weird. There's some weird statistic, and it said like over the course of your lifetime, you're gonna run into at least 30 people who have committed a murder.
Really? That's a real statistic?
Yeah, but I don't know how they figure that because I'm like, what if you live in a small town and there's like nobody there? But that's what they were talking about on My Favorite Murder, that you statistically run into at least 30 people over your lifetime. And like, I don't really know anybody with such a direct story besides you who knew someone that was like prolific like this. And you really never know. Like, it's hard because there's weird people and then there's people that give you that vibe. Like, you never know who's going to end up doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I think there was visuals, and then his demeanor wasn't. The only thing he did was that laugh.
Ew.
It was inappropriate. You know what I mean? Like, there's people that just laugh at inappropriate things.
But he's laughing at thinking he's scaring you.
Yeah, like he's creeping me out. And then it was a little bit too much laughter. And it went on a little too long.
Like, he got off to thinking he scared a kid.
Yeah,
and that's
he was
already weird.
Yeah, he was getting off. It was it was weird. And then when he said he slept in the coffin, I was just like, that's it. I think those were the two big breaking points for me in the story.
Because it's like he was already obviously really into shock value, and then it kind of escalated.
And I don't know if he did anything before that. I mean, the thing is, It made it sound like he didn't even go on trial.
No.
So he either killed
away.
himself or was killed before he could even go to trial.
Well, the thing is, too, like, did he just start... It seems kind of weird that he would just start out automatically killing him with that guy. Like, who knows what he was doing before that? Yeah,
Torturing
anyway.
Kids? I don't know.
Because, like, those kind of things escalate. So even when you met him, he might have been up to some weird stuff.
Well, I mean, when you think about, like, Crash the Car,
yeah,
that's taking it in, that's going from film to reality. You know what I mean? That's going from, hey, I'm making this film and this is all fake, to, like, crash your car.
Yeah.
That's real.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's, my gosh.
And seeing if he could get that kid to do it just by him asking.
Right.
So who knows? Like, he was already... And the fact that you and the other guy bonded over that, like, think of how many other people in that neighborhood probably have similar stories of knowing that dude was weird.
Yeah. And his mom helped sell it because she was a sweetheart. Mm-hmm. I might be making this up, but I think she offered to make us lunch.
Aww.
I could have... I don't think we ate there, but I think she offered... Can I get you something to eat?
She probably thought he was harmless. She was maybe overindulgent of his behaviors.
Very supportive. Yeah, she was very supportive.
But how could you really know that it's going to go that far?
That goes beyond like a sociopath, right?
I don't even know what that is.
Because that's sociopathic behavior where you could be kind of two-faced like that. But then that goes into...
That's like a whole
homicidal or I don't know. Anyways, guys, like, these
are the real monsters, you guys. Think about that when you go. Well, you're probably all too old to get trick or treating, but if you do, no judgment.
Yeah. But this is the face of a serial killer, filmmaker / D&D player. In love with all the same films that I was in love with as a kid.
Man, creative people are weird.
Yeah, yeah. So watch out for guys like this. First it's D&D, then the next thing you know, you're driving your car into a wall.
Not all weirdos are harmless.
Yeah.
But most of them are.
So, should we try to wrap this up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Where do we go from here?
I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to do one of those. Like,
you know, everything like centered on Halloween now is like centered on really scaring you. So I hope this really scared you. But like, you should everybody should wind down now by like, there's this really scary Halloween, and then there's like the fun, spooky Halloween that makes you feel like a kid again. Like watching Hocus Pocus or The Great Pumpkin.
ooh, we watched Hocus Pocus last night. It's a TBird family fave. But there's two movies we could send you on that is Tucker and Dale.
Yes, Tucker and Dale, 100%.
Yeah,
you guys
watch.
haven't seen that. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, and that's kind of slasher-ish. And then the same director did, was it Little Evil?
Yes, Little Evil, and I guess that's kind of Halloween. It's kind of, without spoiling anything, it's kind of like The Omen, but also kind of a horror comedy.
Yeah, it's kind of that same kind of feel.
Not in a farcy way. The interesting about the director is the stuff he does is really funny, but it's not like scary movie where it's like straight up skits or anything. It's kind of a twist on those traditional horror stories, and they're both on Netflix, and you guys should totally watch them tonight.
Were they
They're very good.
theatrically released or just Netflix originals?
They weren't. They were just Netflix originals, but you can buy them on DVD because I've seen Tucker and Dale for sale at Target.
Those are fun movies. So if you guys want to, like, you know, lighten it up after the story.
They're feel-good Halloween stories. Chester says, fun story art, glad you made it.
Oh my god.
And Comic Book Bob says, so gonna hand out adult treats tonight too, like hot coffee and Taco Bell soft tacos.
Taco Bell is another horror story. That's the horror fast food. That stuff wreaks havoc on my system.
Oh yeah, we had that before we went to go see the Halloween movie.
And thank goodness neither one of us paid a price.
I got jacked up from it.
Oh, you did get jacked up from it.
But you and Amanda were okay because you were like, we're taking a risk by eating this. And I was like, man, I can't believe we're eating this after we talked about how bad it was. And then, boy, did I pay for that Crunchwrap Supreme.
Oh, okay. I was like, it was a Gordito or something, or Gordita.
It was a Crunchwrap Supreme.
It was a Crunchwrap Supreme. You should have known better with those 2 taco shells.
Especially that it has like every ingredient on the menu
in
one thing.
I think it's that sauce. I blame that sauce. I don't think that's real sauce. I don't know what that
Sheldon
is.
says, I had to stop eating my Pop-Tarts during this story.
Ooh, were they like raspberry or some gooey, like fruit filling?
I don't like Pop-Tarts.
Strawberry.
Well, we're talking about the fake blood.
Oh god. This isn't gonna go away for me. I'm gonna have to. Yeah. You can't take how do you get rid of the creepies? Like, if it's like sexual whatever, don't you take a cold shower? Like, what's the cure for the creepies?
Watching something
fun.
like Little Evil.
That's not, well.
Well,
it might not help me.
What about I don't know, Hocus Pocus? It still keeps you in the spirit without the bad vibe.
Oh my gosh, the worst thing is watching Hocus Pocus as an adult.
Why? Because horrible effects?
No, they. All right, we're gonna go Hocus Pocus, guys. We're gonna try to wrap this up, but
there is one scene I don't like from the movie.
There's a couple for me as a parent, and I'm not getting overly
watching it with a child.
Yeah, with a child.
Okay.
Yeah, you see it differently because it's supposed to be for kids, right? It's a kids movie. But there's a scene where they just killed the little girl at the beginning, like it's a flashback.
I know what you're gonna say.
And they're dancing around like they just, oh, now we're young, yay. And just off. It's so weird. It's kind of cropped in and out. Like you partially see the slumped over dead little girl.
Yeah, she's in the scene, you guys. She's in the background, full view.
Right, but she's cropped, like weirdly, like she's not in the scene.
But it's her slumped over body.
But she is in the scene. So I'm like, what were you trying to do? Like, obviously you're saying this is in bad taste, showing a dead kid, right? Because it's a kid's movie, but it's still kind of in frame. It's almost like one of those what are those scenes where you're like Bigfoot. Like you're not supposed to see Bigfoot. It just happened to be caught on film. Like it's supposed to be like watching the Sanders sisters celebrate that now they're young and good looking, I guess.
But once you see that dead little girl, you can't unsee it.
But just off to the side, there's this cropped image of this partially cropped girl slumped in, and she's kind of slumped into the frame, like she's kind of a framing device.
Yeah.
And if you look, I guess you're not supposed to really look over to the left, but if you do, you see a dead little girl.
Not pleasant.
Yeah, so it's weird, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm going to say this, but I don't mean to be...
I mean, as a kid, though, I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice it till I watched it with my young daughter, when she was younger.
Yeah, and I didn't notice it till you told me about it, and now I can't unsee it. Because I was like, wow, she is in that scene, just kind of laying like a prop on the ground.
Yeah, why didn't you just crop her away? Like, you already know what happened.
You don't need to show her.
Why is she in the shot? And then there's a shot, and like I said, I want to just back up. I'm not a prude by any stretch of the imagination. But there's also a scene where those young adults are sleeping with each other towards the end of the movie.
And it's implied.
Well, it's supposed to be like, this is just harmless.
But he says he's not a virgin anymore at the end.
Does he?
Yes!
Does he say that?
I think he does.
Oh my gosh, this movie just got worse. But then that also implies that he did it in front of
his sister. Okay. And then there's the scene where the cat gets run over.
Yeah, but that's a Disney trope, like the animal dies and then, the thing. But I'm just like, okay, let's just say even if he didn't sleep with her, he just met her.
They haven't one night.
Yeah, it's the same night. And then they're already in bed with, like, either that kid's got some major game.
Or none at all.
Or that girl's incredibly, like, easy. Like, I don't know. Like,
he saved her from, well, actually, he didn't.
Well, she kind of, she had the whole salt thing.
He didn't do anything, actually.
He lit the damn candle. Like, he put them all in harm's way.
Here's the thing. Durkin said he didn't just meet her. He met her at school that day.
Yeah, earlier that same day, he gave her his phone number.
Yeah,
and then she gave him back the same phone number. And then later in the evening, he shows up at her house. She's like this rich. Because he's new to the
school, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and so he did just meet her that day.
Yeah, so she's this rich socialite of the neighborhood, and she knows the Sanderson sister story. So they go into her house, and then she's like in charge of the trick-or-treat candy or whatever.
That's not this meeting. Well, how long do you...
So then they reacquaint themselves, I guess, at that moment. And so now, like, they're outside of the school. And so he's just like, hey, why don't we go over to the Sanderson sisters' house? Wouldn't that be a cooler thing to do on Halloween?
Young girls can't resist the spooky.
Right. So for some reason, she's like, sure, let me change my clothes.
I mean, that would really happen, though, because girls love dumb stuff like that.
But they also drag along this little girl. But at this point, it's relatively harmless, right?
Because he has to watch her. Remember, he has to take his sister out trick-or-treating, so he's stuck with her.
So this sounds like a setup for the new Halloween movie.
Yes, it does.
Like, I forgot my stethoscope. Oh, whatever. Then they go off.
I hope the babysitter doesn't die.
Yeah, whatever. So anyway, then they end up... They think they just killed 3 people, right?
Yeah, they burned them to death.
Yeah, they burned them to death in the incinerator. This is Freddy Krueger territory as well. Like, this is like they burned them in the furnace at the school.
It's the perfect time to hook up after your little sister.
And so then he doesn't go, hey, I'll walk you back to your house. They end up at his house.
Yeah, where's her? Their parents don't know because
they're dancing to
bewitched.
death. They're bewitched. Yeah. I don't know, guys.
It was a stressful situation, says TC.
I don't know. There's some weird stuff.
My biggest problem with the movie is when the little girl goes, there's this if you guys watch the scene, you can tell that the actress doesn't know what she's saying because her tone changes where you can tell the director's like, say it this way, where she goes, he loves your yabos. And then she just goes, really? He loves them. And this really weird, sincere tone that made me think, okay, the little girl doesn't know what she's talking about when she's saying this line, because this is like a really weird tone. Because she goes from joking to like sounding sincere, and it's really weird. And also, why is this little girl obsessed with her like brother hooking up? Because she's like, you love Allison. Mwah, mwah. I'm like, this is weird for a little girl to be acting like with her own brother.
It's overly, it's weirdly sexualized in an odd way.
In a way that a kid would not like think about.
It's kind of like supposed to be innocent, but there's some weird stuff.
She's
You guys watch
teasing
it.
him,
Watch
but
that
she's
movie
also
again.
kind of obsessing over it, which is weird.
And the little girl knows a little bit too much, like you said,
she mocks
about.
him for being a virgin.
Well, she also. Oh my gosh.
Why is the little girl mocking
going
him?
off on a crazy tangent here. Okay, all right. There's a scene where she displays herself on the bed like she's Allison. Remember?
Yes, that's what
she
I
goes,
mean.
Yeah, she goes, take
Kiss me, I'm
kiss me.
Allison.
Yeah, I'm Allison.
Why
but
would
she
you
lays
say
herself
that?
on her back in a submissive position.
Yeah, she throws herself on the bed like, kiss me, I'm Allison. It's like, ew.
And I think she's supposed to be like 7 or 8.
And then she's spying on him in his closet.
It's a weird movie.
She's spying on him and sees him make the pill and jumps out. And I'm like, little girl, if you would have waited another couple minutes, it would not have been good.
She would have got more than she bargained for on that one.
Although we did something similar to that to my friend's sister before and jumped out before it was too late.
Okay.
But I don't know if you want to tell that story.
I don't think we should go.
Anyway, you should watch the movie.
But as a tangent, sort of related, remember that scene in Gremlins?
Oh, gosh.
Where they spoil Christmas? Like, that's supposed to be like a horror film for kids, right?
It's weird because...
And then she comes right out in the story and says...
There's no Santa.
Right.
Any kid that's watching the movie was told directly, there's no Santa.
Right. And it just totally, tonally doesn't even fit the movie. Like, why is this going to this really, really dark place right now?
But the weird part is when I was a really little kid and watched that movie, I don't remember that scene at all. And I don't remember if my mom knew it was coming and was like, okay, cover your ears. Like, if that's why I didn't remember it. But then I remember when I was like 12. No, when my brother was born, I was like 15. My brother was, I guess my brother was older. I was probably like 17 or 18. My brother was little. And that's when I first noticed that scene. And I remember like, I didn't see it coming because I didn't know. And then when she's like, talks about her dad gruesomely dying, which they don't show anything, but it's a really creepy story she tells. I remember being like, uh-oh. And then I didn't expect her to be like, and that's when I knew there's no Santa. And I was like, oh, crap. And like, I was like, great. I didn't know that this was coming. And like, we never talked about it. But I remember like around that time, like he really, really did believe. So I was super mad.
But don't they say, she says, we lit a fire in the morning because it was cold or something?
And then they smelled something.
And they smelled some. I hope I'm not making that up.
No, she does. She goes, we smelled something. And she's like, and then they went it was Dad. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's horrible.
It goes into like weird detail. It's that movie's really tonally like right there. The movie just flips and just does a complete turnaround, and you're like, "What the heck is this movie about now?" And also, it's strangely about her.
Yeah,
like she's not even the main character. Why does she have this major story? You know, like backstory in this story.
Because it's not about her learning to believe in Christmas, because she never does. But like, yeah, like tonally, it really, really doesn't fit in the rest of the movie. And in that scene in particular, it's like them bonding and she whips out this horror story.
It's like they're just trying to loosely bring it back to like it's some kind of Christmas horror movie.
Sticky Wicked says, I'm still a little salty about literally everyone lying to me about Santa. But no, you shouldn't be, because it's actually kind of a wonderful thing. Like me and Art have talked about this before. Like, the magic of the Santa is that your parents lie to you so that they don't get credit for doing something kind of amazing and selfless. Like, even though they're doing it, they never get thanked.
And that it is a conspiracy, but it's a conspiracy that the world perpetrates in the form of wanting to believe that there's magic
and giving it to kids.
And giving hope and trying to bring that spirit into a child, so that in turn they try to bring that into the world and into their children, and so on and so on and so on. So yeah, I mean, the reality of it is something completely different, but I do believe that there's greater good that is served. And like Taylor said, like the parents never even take credit for it. I never even had a conversation with my
Me
parents
neither.
about it after I found out. So it just kind of dies, right? You just kind of figure it out on your own. You never have those conversations. And
Think
then,
of the length that they went to not get credit for buying you gifts.
yeah, and who wouldn't want to take credit for that? I still want to take credit. Look what I did for you. Yeah, anyways, guys, gosh, we're in a talkative
Gets you
mood.
in the Christmas spirit for Halloween.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of weirdly Christmas, Halloween type crossover movies.
Like The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah. So, anyways, guys, yeah, I hope you all have a great Halloween and be safe. And yeah, and we still have an Indiegogo going, so we're in demand right now. So if you want to pick up a black and white book, it'd be very cool. There's still time, not a whole lot of time, but there still is some time. Do you want to talk us out, Taylor?
Yeah, we're toying with, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, we're toying with some ideas of possibly adding some new stretch goals and maybe some tiers.
Yeah, don't tell them what the stretch goals
I won't tell
are
them
yet,
what they
though.
are,
Yeah.
but so keep an eye on that because we're not done yet. But pick up a book in demand. You could use the link in the description to check out Black and White Remastered. It's not too late to get your copy. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications on this channel. At this time, we are not monetized, but you can donate or you can pick up a book if you want to give your thanks. Make sure that you hit that bell though so that you know when we go live for next time. And have a spooky Halloween.
And look into those eyes.